Four watches, four of the most famous names in the world. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Richard Mille, Audemars Piguet. Each one costs more than a car. Each one has a waiting list. Each one will be worth more in 10 years than it is today. But only one of them has managed to do something that none of the others have. It became the symbol of success for both a billionaire hedge fund manager in Geneva and LeBron James on an NBA court in Los Angeles. Old money and new money, boardrooms and basketball courts, Geneva and Compton, one watch, every world. Today we're going to find out exactly why the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak beats every other watch brand on the planet. And we're going to do it by going brand by brand. Round 1. Audemars Piguet versus Rolex. Rolex is the most recognized watch brand on earth. Everyone knows Rolex. Your taxi driver knows Rolex. Your grandmother knows Rolex. And that is exactly Rolex's problem. When a brand becomes truly universal, it loses its exclusivity. Rolex is aspirational for millions of people, which means millions of people own one, which means wearing a Rolex says, I have done well. Wearing a Royal Oak says something different. It says, I am in a room where everyone already has a Rolex, and I chose this instead. The Royal Oak starts at $24,000. The Rolex Submariner starts at $10,000. The price gap isn't random. It's a signal. Rolex wins on recognition. AP wins on exclusivity. And in luxury, exclusivity always beats recognition. Recognition is the first step. Exclusivity is the destination. Round 1 goes to AP. Round 2. Audemars Piguet versus Patek Philippe. This is the hardest round, because Patek Philippe is genuinely the greatest watchmaker in history. 180 years of uninterrupted innovation. The most complicated movements ever created. The best auction results of any brand on the secondary market. Patek's famous line, "You never actually own a Patek Philippe. You merely look after it for the next generation." That's heritage. That's legacy. Nobody argues with Patek on that. But here's where AP wins. Patek Philippe is traditional. Round cases, dress watches, conservative design. The Nautilus, Patek's sportiest model, was actually designed by the same man who designed the Royal Oak, Gerald Genta, in 1976. 4 years after the Royal Oak. It was essentially Genta doing the Royal Oak again for Patek. AP got there first. AP took the bigger risk. AP paid the bigger price in ridicule, in rejection. And today the Royal Oak is more culturally relevant than anything Patek makes. Patek is worn by people who have arrived. AP is worn by people who are arriving, and by people who have already been there for decades. Patek wins on heritage. AP wins on cultural relevance. In 2025, cultural relevance moves markets faster than heritage. Round 2 goes to AP. Round 3, Audemars Piguet versus Richard Mille. Richard Mille is the challenger. The new money watch, the rapper's watch, the athlete's watch, started in 2001, now sells watches for $1 million. The fastest growing luxury watch brand in history. Richard Mille and AP compete for exactly the same customer. Young, wealthy, athletic, cultural. So why does AP win this round? 2 reasons. First, history. Richard Mille has been around for 20 years. Audemars Piguet has been around for 150 years. In watchmaking, a brand that survives 150 years has proven something that a brand of 20 years simply cannot. Second, the Royal Oak concept. Most people don't know about this. AP has a line of watches that competes directly with Richard Mille on materials and engineering. Forged carbon, titanium, skeleton movements. Prices from $150,000 to $500,000. AP can play Richard Mille's game, but Richard Mille cannot play AP's game because AP has the history, and history cannot be bought. Richard Mille wins on spectacle. AP wins on depth. Round 3 goes to AP. Round 4, Audemars Piguet versus Vacheron Constantin. Vacheron Constantin is the oldest watch manufacturer in continuous operation, founded in 1755. Never stopped making watches. Not once. Not during wars. Not during crises. They make extraordinary watches. The craftsmanship is impeccable. The movements are among the finest ever created, and almost nobody talks about them. That is Vacheron's challenge. They are extraordinarily good at making watches. They are not good at making culture. The Royal Oak appears in rap lyrics. The Royal Oak appears in NBA locker rooms. The Royal Oak appears on the wrists of the people who define what's cool right now. Vacheron makes watches for connoisseurs. AP makes watches for connoisseurs and for everyone who wants to signal they've reached that level. Vacheron wins in a museum. AP wins in the real world. Round 4 goes to AP. Round 5, Audemars Piguet versus IWC. IWC Schaffhausen makes arguably the best pilot's watches and divers' watches outside of Rolex. The Portugueser is one of the most elegant watches ever designed. The Big Pilot is a statement piece. IWC is the watch of professionals, doctors, lawyers, engineers, people who want something serious without being flashy. And that's exactly why AP wins. IWC is serious. AP is iconic. IWC is respected. AP is coveted. IWC is what you buy when you want a great watch. AP is what you buy when you want people to know you know what a great watch is. In luxury, being coveted is worth more than being respected. Round 5 goes to AP. So after 5 rounds, AP beats Rolex on exclusivity. AP beats Patek on cultural relevance. AP beats Richard Mille on depth and history. AP beats Vacheron on real-world impact. AP beats EWC on desire. But here's the real reason AP wins. Every other brand on this list is the best at one thing. Rolex, recognition. Patek, heritage. Richard Mille, engineering spectacle. Vacheron, craftsmanship. IWC, professional credibility. AP is the only brand that competes seriously in every single category simultaneously. And it all comes back to one octagonal bezel, one man, one night, one napkin. Gerald Genta didn't just design a watch in 1972. He designed a language that billionaires speak in Geneva, and that LeBron speaks on an NBA court. That is why the Royal Oak beats everyone. Not because it's the best watch, because it's the only watch that means something to everyone. In 1972, the world laughed at this watch. Today it costs $30,000 and you can't buy one. The Royal Oak didn't win by being better. It won by being different, and by staying different for 50 years, while the entire world tried to copy it. If you want to understand why certain things become icons while everything else fades, subscribe. Next week, Patek Philippe, the brand that hasn't changed its flagship watch in 170 years. And somehow, that's exactly why it's worth more than everything else on this list.